You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle. Good morning, everyone. This is Jim Chester, your host of the Chiro Hustle live stream. I have Kim Gambino with me today. She's going to talk about her backstory, pun intended, and we're going to talk about how she's been supporting chiropractic and her career of 27 years and some of the things that she's up to today. I am coming from Grand Junction, the Grand Valley of the western slope of Colorado, where no one lives. And she is coming from a high-level metropolis out in California, which is called San Diego. And we're going to talk about, first thing I'm going to do is say thank you for being on the show, Kim.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun sharing your story today. And next thing I want to do is introduce our sponsor, and that is Chiro Spark. They are a social media company. So if you guys want to learn how to dominate on the different platforms of social media, reach out to Blake Kalkstein, and he's going to be able to help you out and get you started. So social media is something that we can all dominate in. I tell everybody that we are our own media company before anything else. So if we really want to make a presence with chiropractic, we need to think about you have to become your own media company. So with that said, we're going to start talking about why chiropractic? Why did you pick chiropractic, Kim?
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty long story in itself, but I was always interested in health. When I was in high school, I said I was going to be a pediatrician. I wanted to take care of children. Thought I was going the medical route. Ended up going to undergraduate school. Said there's no way I'm going to school this long. My brother lived in Atlanta. I kept traveling down in the summer. I would work in the summer, and that 12-week summer, I would work for 5 weeks. So I would work 3 jobs at a time, sleep hardly any, make enough money to keep me for the next year. And then I kept meeting these chiropractic students. Now, I grew up in Southern West Virginia, so I never heard a chiropractor. And I kept meeting them. And then I was like, wait a minute. I was in sports physiology. And I said, well, I think a chiropractor is like a podiatrist is a foot doctor. So I was like, all right, decided to go to school. Had no idea what it was about. And it wasn't until third quarter I went to DE, and I was like, oh my gosh, nursing, home births, innate intelligence, and that was it. My whole life has changed. It was so I don't think it was that intellectually said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I just kept doing the same thing and the same thing.
And you've been working in the chiropractic profession for 27 years now. And let's talk a little bit about where you started. You started at Life College. And I know that that's a pretty cool story too. And let's share with our audience a little bit about Life College and your attachment to that school.
Well, after my husband and I, we both graduated from there, and we moved up to New York. And through the process, that was in '91. It was probably through early 2000s when Life University started having different types of issues. And then everybody knows about what happened with Dr. Sid, and the school started to go down. And we happened to be at a seminar, and Dr. Guy Riekman and Dr. Ribley were traveling around the country asking for donations. And I know that the seminar that we were in, I think everyone donated about $50,000. And so it pulled the school out. And during that time, they came up with the idea of Life Force, which is it's where the prospective students come to Life University. Now it's 5 times a year, and they show the prospective students the school and how awesome chiropractic is. And if this is the school for them, this is what they're allowing to see it. And then during that time, my husband and I just kept showing up. And then they recruited maybe 10 to 15 of us that would actually start to promote. And this is something that we never got paid for. We just showed up. And so we called ourselves the Purview, and we named Pure Life. And so we helped bring the school because of the life force and the energy that we put in it to, I don't want to say what it is today, because Dr. Guy Riekman and everyone there who's working in day-to-day is the ones who really made it. But we loved influencing prospective students. And we never said, go to Life University, and we never said you should be a chiropractor. We just spoke with them and opened our hearts and let them know how awesome our life was and how all the amazing things that have happened because of who we have become with the chiropractic philosophy. And that's the thing that I'm super thankful for. It may not necessarily be my physical practice, my physical this. It's the philosophy that I've learned and grown to embody and to be. Or maybe that's who I really am, and chiropractic has allowed that to express itself.
Yeah, that's really cool. You had an opportunity to come in. I think I'm getting a little feedback here. It's starting to sort itself out. Sorry about that. Sometimes that happens. But Sean Drake says, go Dr. Kim Gambino. So it's really nice to get audience participation early on in these things. If you guys are out there watching, just put in the comments where you guys are coming in from. And if you guys have, it's Valentine's Day, so give us some hearts, right? So one of the next things I want to talk about is the League of Chiropractic Women, and what at that point you guys were accomplishing with getting a group of chiropractic women's voices together to make an impact for the future.
Yeah, so how that started, it was in 2012, and we were going to a lot of seminars, and 90% of the speakers were men. And at this time, this was when the seminar thing was really big. I mean, it was happening all around the country, and we were looking at 10% women. And one of the women, she goes, wait a minute, why don't you have more women on stage? And one of the guys that were running his own seminar series said, why don't you start your own? Good idea. So she and it was Patty Ridley and Sharon Gorman got together, and they got a bunch of women. These are the women that we want to see get this started. And that was in April of 2012. By July of 2012, we had 300 attendees at our first seminar, all women. Not that it mattered, but it was just women. And so these are women in chiropractic. It wasn't necessarily a woman who's a chiropractor. It could be a wife, it could be a daughter, it could be CA. It didn't matter, because our heart is what chiropractic is. It's not the degree behind or in front of our name or all the letters, wherever those letters need to be. And so that took off. Within a year, we had 800 members. It was something that was needed. And it was more needed not to say that we're women, but for the feminine energy. 2012 was a big turning point. If you know anything about the Mayan calendar, that was where the end of the masculine world stopped. 2012 on, this is why the millennials are all bushy, everyone's bushy, and more feminine energy change over. So that was part of that. It was time. And what's really interesting is the chiropractic profession is a very masculine field, which you would think that it would be feminine because there's a lot of touch. But because we've had to defending yourself is very masculine, standing up for yourself. So over the last 100 and some years, we've had to defend ourselves. So we've had to be calloused. We've had to show up really strong. And women, we show up strong. We don't necessarily need to be physically strong. It's heart. It's the secret power that we have. Whether you're a woman or a man, you know what the power is. It's very deep, and it's not something that is physical because we created it. It's physical because we've manifested it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but we're featuring the first 4 months of this new year to the woman's voice in chiropractic. So we're interviewing many, many, many women, sharing their stories about chiropractic and what it means for them to be in the profession and how they got their career started. And I think that it was a smart move on ours, because we want to really empower the woman's voice, because we realize that there's some statistics out there that 50% of all women in chiropractic now are in school are women, and that the future voice of this profession is going to need the support of a strong woman presence, if that's going to be the number of graduates and students that are coming out of schools. So I say that that's good foresight for what you and your group were doing back in 2012, bringing a bigger voice. And have you seen a ripple effect since you guys started League of Chiropractic Women?
Yes, yeah, I do. It's interesting. I was saying that we leave pretty quietly. Honestly, last night, I'm in bed last night. I'm like, I have all this stuff to do this one. I have this interview. I promised interview. And my husband's like, I threw you under the bus. And I was like, gosh, I'm only concerned about being in my community and doing it. I'm not into about beating my chest and looking good. That's not something for me. For me, it's more about what can I do to create a change And, I'm like, who's going to be watching this? Why am I even doing it? And what happens is once I take the step forward, I always have a really good time, but stepping forward, I don't want to be on my computer. I don't want to figure out how to do this electronic stuff. And yeah, so, I think it's probably harder for you. You have to go in and pull the women to have them share what they do. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, it's honestly the unsung hero. This is our my assistant with Chiro Hustle. Her name is Myra. She works so hard. Another strong woman in the chiropractic profession. She's not a chiropractor, but she is really the backbone of my operation, making sure that our productions go on well and making sure that my team and I have good quality interviews. And I think like I mentioned to you off camera, I was like, I've done so many of these things. I just want to say thank you for being our guest today and try to make you feel as comfortable as possible, because I know people do go out of their comfort zone to put themselves through learning new tech, and I'm the same way. Like if somebody's like, hey, I want you to do this, I'm like, oh gosh, now I have to like download a file, I have to like do some like paperwork, I have to like do like an application, they want to verify this. Like, what it's like 10 times a day we get an opportunity to do stuff we don't want to do. So giving an opportunity to speak about chiropractic, I think, is a slam dunk for most of y'all though. So next thing we'll talk about is let's talk about your birth network that you're a part of out in San Diego, and let's tell people about why it's important to have this type of a non-for-profit for your community.
So back in 2012, we were moving from West Virginia to San Diego, and we still have a practice in West Virginia. So my husband was out here practicing in San Diego practice, and I was flying back and forth because I didn't have a California license. I did have a West Virginia license, so I was there. And one time I flew in, and I was we stopped. He picked me up. We visited San Diego, and it's beautiful, and it's probably winter time, like February, and we walked by the bay, and we met this girl canvassing for Greenpeace, pregnant, almost girl, 19 years old. I was talking about a mate and birth and how you should stay home and do it by yourself. And she was totally into it. She walked across the country. She was super cool. And then I found out she's homeless. And I said, what does your mother say about you being out here pregnant like this? She goes, oh, she cries herself to sleep. But I go, I would be crying myself to sleep if I knew my daughter was pregnant, living in no place to sleep. And she said, well, there's some homeless shelters and we stay. And so I gave her a card. I said, come by the office. We'll take care of you. No charge. Don't worry about it. And never heard from her again. Bumped into her about 6 months later at the farmer's market. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you doing? And she's totally pregnant. And she goes, I lost your card. And, I thought people lose cards all the time when they actually have a physical location to live. So I didn't expect to, for her to have it. And I said, here's another one. She said, well, we're going to have our baby in the hospital, my boyfriend and I. And so that was the last I heard from it. And then I get a phone call, and someone's calling the office asking for Dr. Kim because she's the labor assistant. She's the labor coach. And my office staff is, who is this? And it was the homeless girl. So long story short, I ran to the hospital, didn't know her name, spent 9 hours with her. Throughout the time, I was just in her space, getting to, just that. Because we had 3 unassisted home births, and we can talk about that in a little bit. And so I just, every time she talked about epidural, I talk about a mate and how natural it was. And then finally, she's like, I'm going to have an epidural. And she wasn't like saying it against me. She was just telling her boyfriend. And the woman comes in, and she's like, honey, let's check dilation. And she checks dilation, and she's ready to have the baby. So everybody's all excited. They come in. The doc comes in. 2 pushes later, the doc pulls on the baby's head. Now, yeah, 2 pushes. Now, if we'd have been an hour and a half in, I'd have been easy, easy, boom. I didn't have a license. I didn't have hospital rights. So I didn't, meanwhile, it's 3:30 in the morning. So I didn't adjust the baby. I said, I'll see you in the morning. Come back at 7 a.m. in the morning. Baby's head's to the side. Now, this was a supernatural, easy birth. And he did that. So what kind of births are these babies are being pulled out? What kind of stress is happening? And so immediately I said, I'm in San Diego. There are amazing chiropractors here. We need to get the chiropractic profession and San Diego birth profession or group professionals together. And so I went online, I was calling midwives, I was going to having tea with doulas, and everyone kept saying there's a birth network that's already up. And I kept, I'm like, where is it? What's happening? I couldn't find it. They had one event a year, but nobody was interested in coming together. So it wasn't until 2014 that I went to 2015, something like that, to the Red Tent. And the woman was like, oh, you should come to our board meeting. And I was like, yep, I just, no more nonprofits, already do that. I'm done. And then 3 days later, I was like, wait, I think the board meeting's today. I show up, and then she's like, we have 2 board positions, secretary, and I'm like, not me. She's the vice president. So I moved into the vice president. That was September. January, she says, I'm getting accredited at the midwifery school. I need my time. Can you jump into presidency? That was 3 years ago, January. And so we come up, the board and I, because I had more time and more energy and a vision, we came up with a 5-year plan. So our first year was to get the board together and stable. The second year was to get the website. And I know people are like, oh, how does it take a year to get a website? It does, when you have members coming and going and different paying options and things like that in the correct way. So our second year. Our third year, we started doing socials. So we have about 60 providers right now in the San Diego Birth Network. And so what we do 8 times a year is we go to a physical business. So last one was at the midwifery school. So we'll have them showcase their physical business, take us on tours, and then we'll have 3 other providers. So those providers are doulas, usually a person who doesn't have a physical face, doulas, lactation consultants, growth educators. So when we do that 8 times a year, then we're hitting 24 different businesses and so showcased. So that was our last year. So now we're in our next year. Now we're outreach. So we're going to be doing Earth Day, we're doing MommyCon, we're doing the Pride Parade. So these are really big events, which is really awesome. And as a chiropractor, if you put a booth here that says chiropractic, people are you're stepping out here trying to talk to them and you're just flying by. Now, San Diego Birth Network, you're going to have people stop and just, oh, what is this? What's happening? And then we get to tell the chiropractic story. No one's opposed to hearing it. They just think they already know it. So that's our 4th. We're just started our 4th year. And then 5th year, we were going to educate the youth. And what we decided to do, we were doing 4th trimester instead, because what we're finding is a lot of women, once they come home with their baby, that's it. Like if they're being dropped and no one's helping take care of them. So that's our vision. We have just set up an admin. One of the biggest things as far as a nonprofit goes is I wanted this for like 3 years, is hire an admin. If you've been involved in nonprofits, we don't want to give them money out. I'm like, I'm not doing it, but I know where I need to go, and I'm not doing the spreadsheets. I'm not following it. And so we're about at the point that I'm ready to let the chiropractic profession know that we can actually accept other birth networks in different cities. So we would contact people in LA and say, you can work under our nonprofit and start your own LA birth network or Grand Junction birth network. And that would be the idea. So it would be really simple for people to do that because we already have the foundation and the structure set up. And then because we're a nonprofit already, they don't have to go through the 501c3, and they don't have to set up the charters, and it's a lot of work to set that up.
Wow, that's impressive. I think that so many people are learning more about what they can do to market differently, and I think that that's what you're saying is that this markets the chiropractic message a little differently, but it's a very necessary avenue because if you say, hey, we're going to help your kids be healthy and at a street fair, and that we deal with like moms and pregnancies, you're going to have a line like you're giving away something free. Like that's the cool thing about learning how to market it strategically within the chiropractic world. And I think that like you said, for the past, I don't know, I'm like 2 months out of it, but for the past 36 months, I did over 600 chiropractic screening events. And yeah, that's a big number. So I know what you're saying when people just kind of like fly by you. And you have to learn how to engage with people. And I give you guys a lot of respect for what you're doing to get that implemented into your community, and then build a framework that other people can, use as a launch pad for them, so they don't have to do 4 years of work in order to put the same program out and to run with it and to make it work well. So I think what you've done with that birth network is really cool. Now let's talk a little bit about why you chose to have home births yourself.
Well, uh,
Unassisted, right?
so honestly, what some people don't even know what unassisted means. That means that we didn't have a midwife or anything. So we have three boys. We were in school at the time, and we didn't have. There was no internet. There were no. Um, there were books, and that was it. So my husband would read all the books, and if it had anything negative, he wouldn't give it to me. So that left about three books. We had Spiritual and Midwifery, Birth and Dialogue of Love, and I think Frederick Boyer's book. I think it was Birth Without Fear, and then there was one video, and I remember going in and watching it. But besides that, everything looked like the woman was being traumatized. And so we had a dog that was pregnant during the same time, and I said, well, if she can lay down and have 12 puppies without knowing what to do, my body's designed to do that also. So that's what we ended up doing. We had our first at home, second, third, and they were all unassisted home births. Everything turned out fine. Well, actually, it turned out.
So three boys. What has it been like for you to juggle being a mom, running an office with your husband, and taking on the responsibility to help with different board member positions and things of that nature? What is it like for you to been like a mom through this whole thing?
Busy, really busy. Some of the women who are in practice full time amaze me, because I do have a husband that's in practice, so I can still have my fulfillment and love for chiropractic and not be in there full time. So popping in and out, doing the marketing, doing the business part, because the business part in itself is another 30 hours a week. And anyone who has a practice knows that. And so it's been really nice to have a partner that helps, or is the chiropractor, so I can still have an office and not being here. So it's been busy for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's probably rewarding raising kids in a chiropractic lifestyle too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, they kind of raised me, and it's because, well, if you stick by what we did, we stuck by the chiropractic philosophy, above, down, inside out, innate, follow innate, and they were just so wild when they were little. There was no way of putting them in school. We homeschooled them, which ended up turning into unschooling, and then unschooling, which means that you actually don't sit down and teach them anything. And then eventually they went to an alternative school where they had multi-level classrooms, unit studies, no testing. And then they all went to public schools, because I said, oh, I'm wasting our money and time. There's not a big difference in different types of schools. Well, there were. Then we pulled them out. They went to Catholic school, boarding, four different boarding schools, actually. 4 different boarding schools, Waldorf schools, another public school. Our youngest ended up taking his GED during his senior year, and we gave him the money instead of sending him to private school. He and his brother went to Europe and traveled. So I don't know. We don't know what's ahead. Where they are right now is one of them is in New York, and he just drove cross country. The other one's in Denver, and he was supposed to be going up to like Norway to do some, I don't know, long sailing trip that was pretty dangerous, which I heard it may be canceled. And then our youngest just recently bought him a van, and he's moving on to, it's called van life, if you've heard about that. And instead of having a physical location, so we're not going to be paying rent, which is $10,000 a year for school. He's going to be living out a large renovated cargo van, and it's a big thing in California. And I heard in Colorado also, a lot of people are doing it outside of Denver and Boulder.
Yeah. We live in some pretty cool states that people are a little bit more progressive with how they see the world around them. And I think that more people are learning that detachment is actually healthy. And I know you do something that helps people with that called Chiro Wonderlux.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah. Chiro Wonderlux, if you haven't seen that. Yes.
Yeah, so you take people out to Joshua Tree National Park area and you let people do what?
Well, it started. I was invited by another amazing female chiropractor from Seattle, and she goes away once a year up into the Olympic Mountains for a week with 50, 60 women. It's called Long Dance, and Long Dance had originated with the Native Americans in the Grand Canyon, and the Native American women would dance from sunset to sunrise. And they would
Wow.
act things during this time. They would dance all night long, and they prior to that day that they would do a sweat lodge to release something negative. And she invited me up to Long Dance, and I did that maybe it was about 4 years ago. And I came out of that, and I was a changed person. And there was no board breaking, fire walking, tough, and I've done all that stuff. When I came out, I was different. I was just a different person. And I said, I want this for chiropractors. I want them to have this feeling, this deep, deep feeling. And since that time, my life has changed. I'm definitely a different person because of that week. And I've been back, and so it took a couple of years, and then designed the one for Joshua Tree for chiropractors. And so we do a sacred fire dance this year. Actually, went to Burning Man for the first time, which was incredible, and I met a radical breath worker from British Columbia, and he came down and did this amazing transformational breath work session that you would think that people are expressing out of the bodies. I think I'd never gone to the gathering, but I think it was very similar to what Sigafus used to do. And then I'm just thinking of some of the other events that we have during that time. It's pretty low key, very grounding. Everyone sleeps outside. They sleep underneath the stars. The property itself is on 300 acres off grid, very, very, very sacred land. There's a crystal formation that goes through it. So when you're standing there, you feel the vibration of the planet and everyone on it. So that was chosen. And this year, I'm planning on taking this year off because it's a lot of work to put something like that on. And my plan is to walk the Camino. I'm just to be walking in the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like whatever what do they call it? Like a sojourn of types that people do it for like I don't know how long it lasts, like a month or something.
Yeah, it's 500 miles, and it's a pilgrimage from
Pilgrimage, that's the word I was looking for.
south of France almost to Portugal. And so I'm planning on doing that. And I think that if I do that, I won't be able to get Chiro on the list.
Well, it sounds like a really cool thing that you're doing for people, helping them, like Dr. Gonzalez says, getting grounded. I think that that's something that's very important. And like what you did say, you said that like people come out, they get a chance to live on the earth. And I think that we're so disconnected from having carpeted floors and having doors that close that we get disconnected from, our primal instincts and, thinking with the old brain survival stuff and not thinking with the frontal lobe so much and saying, I have this task to do and these tasks to accomplish. And we busy ourselves up to the point that we almost forget that there's a world outside of our busyness.
Yeah.
So let's transition a little bit more into a conversation about. You said that you wanted me to ask you what are your favorite patients.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking of questions. Obviously, my favorite patients are women, pregnant women, and my husband. I remember we were just, I don't know, there was something going on, and he's like, "Don't you want to be in the office?" I'm like, "Well, I just want just women and pregnant kids, or pregnant women and children." He's like, "Don't you think everybody wants that?" And we thought everyone wanted that. Now we've met friends out in San Diego, and they're like, "We don't want a pediatric practice." I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, they take so long to get adjusted." And I was like, I think kids are boom, 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 and plus, these couples haven't had kids and they're not planning on having children. For us to put a child on the table and get them adjusted, 30 seconds. They're fine. They're in and out and you're great. And they come in, you're super excited, and they leave, you're more excited than they are. And the problem is that our staff have to calm my husband and I down because we get the kids all riled up and they can't work in that environment.
So dealing with pregos, current deliveries, and the kids as they transition into life. Does that give you some fulfillment then?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I could do that all day. Yeah. The other part is like, okay, you have to have a physical location, you got to pay your taxes and all that other stuff. I'm like, can somebody just do that for us? Can we just have like, maybe instead of have a consultant, because everybody's wanting to sell their consultant stuff or their coaching stuff, why don't we just have somebody that does all that stuff? That like that it's like that 10% looks like 10% that takes up like this much time. Just do all that stuff for us, and then all of us can just be chiropractors.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, California Jam, Move Well University, the Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, the Chiro Dex app, Dr. Alok Trivedi, Chiro Spark, Chirogram, Chiropractic Wealth Management, 8 Weeks to Wellness, Integrative Freedom, and Element Mattresses. Let's hustle. Right, and I think that that's something that's really cool for people to think about. Everybody thinks that it's all about, business, but, I'll probably say this 1,000 more times, but the chiropractic profession was founded on 33 principles, which are fascinating if people want to get a little bit of philosophy looking at 33 principles. But then the profession is very much so give, love, serve. And I think that that's where chiropractors all have like this almost bleeding heart syndrome, where they want to go to school and they just want to get out and take care of people. And they don't realize how fierce it is that you have to like turn your give, love, serve into a business hand.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why so many chiros get out of school and they're looking for management companies. They're looking for gurus. They're looking for the next thing to make a few bucks so they can just give, love, and serve and figure out the business as they go. Yesterday, Kim, I had an interview with a young student up at Northwestern Chiropractic School, and I talked to him a little bit, and I said, don't you think it's important for chiropractic students to look at themselves as upstarts, like while they're in school? That they have to manage their finances like a business. They have to structure their lives like a business. So when they come out, they can hit the ground running instead of saying, oh gosh, I'm here. How do I do this now? So, at this point, I want everybody to know that if you guys are interested in getting in touch with Dr. Kim, she has her website here on the screen, fulloflifechiro.com. I think we have one more question for you, and then I'll ask you the last question. But one more question for you is, what are you currently working on? What are some projects that you're involved with right now?
What I'm currently working on, and this is a long one. How much time do I have? How can I cut it? Well, and the reason I ask is my latest thing, and I don't know if you've heard of it, is it's all about light. Blue blockers. So these are some basic blue blockers. If you don't know what blue blockers are, we live in a natural circadian rhythm of our body, or we should. Natural circadian rhythms are 24-hour cycles, or we also have cycles that throughout the seasons and throughout our lives. So in a natural environment, when we wake up in the morning, there should be blue, green, and red light that hits our retina. At that time, when the blue light hits the retina, it sends messages to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus goes to the pineal gland and it shuts off the melatonin. Melatonin is only secreted when there's a lack of blue light. Melatonin is the biggest antioxidant your body could possibly have. They've done studies. I started reading all these books. There was one that's called Health and Light by John Ott. And he was a photobiologist that found that he couldn't take pictures throughout the night. This was back in the 50s because they were doing flashes. So the plants wouldn't mature properly. So he had to change the filters to make the plant, because the plant wouldn't grow, or the plant wouldn't produce fruit, or the tree wouldn't produce fruit. So then he started finding out that a lot of illnesses and issues and stuff like that were coming for excessive amounts of light. And so they did a study, and they took rats, and they gave both groups rats cancer. And then one group, they gave them a long day cycle of 16 hours of daylight and 8 hours of darkness. And then the next one, they gave 16 hours of darkness and 8 hours of light. Now, the one that had the 8 hours of darkness, the extended light cycle, 93% got cancer, which they kind of expected because they gave it to the rats. The rats that I had the 16-hour dark cycle, zero got cancer. Now, this is one study. There are numerous studies that are like that. So, my husband and I, we've been, well, it's mainly me because I have a hyperelectrosensitivity to electromagnetic fields. So, Wi Fi, so this has been a challenge for me. What's interesting, as soon as you went onto Instagram, I felt it. So it's a weird, whether you say it's just between us, but every field is felt everywhere. If you're familiar with the teaching experiment, they've done Faraday cages. Faraday cages where you block out all possible information going in and out, and it still gets through. So when you were speaking on Instagram, I felt it. I mean, I had this feeling, and it's not always a good thing. And so, so I have numerous different types of blue light blockers. So when you're on your computer and you get up and you look at your cell phone, the first thing, if you turn your light on, that's midday sun. And midday sun is a different hormonal level when you first wake up. So these people are switching their hormones around. So it's going to affect weight, it's going to affect thyroid, they're going to have migraines, they're not going to be able to get pregnant. And my latest book, it's called EMF Non-Tinfoil Hat Thing. Blew me away. The amount of regulations that's on Wi-Fi, there's not any. There's not any. The FCC did this back in 1990, I think it was 1996, and the amount of EMFs that are allowed to go through each thing was tested on a mannequin of where it would be a man of 220 pounds and like the skull bone would be that thick, which most of us in babies are totally different. And then if you know anything about what's happening, they're getting ready to release 5G. They've actually released 5G here in San Diego. So 5G is the new Wi-Fi, and it's called Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is different than Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is like wire frequencies. Wi-Fi is micro frequencies. So when you look at the amount of, I think it's called gigahertz that go through a 4G, 5G is 4 times that amount. Besides the 4G, and they're adding that on top of it. And they're using it through the smart meters, and that's a whole other thing. The smart meters, they're planning on doing a smart grid. And so all of our Wi-Fi and all of our things are going to be connected. We have refrigerators, stoves, everything in your house will be linked together. So that way you can say, hey, Alexa, turn on my coffee machine, and it turns on. So that frequency that picks up Alexa, that Bluetooth is a certain frequency, it's very high. It's affecting the mitochondria. It's affecting the amount of water that we have in our cells. It's starting to dehydrate us. And so that's my latest thing. I've been studying it. I've been working on it. I've been putting together. I'm going to be doing my first workshop in the office this coming month. And it's so much information. It's so big. And I believe that's where the autism is coming from. So EMFs, electromagnetic fields, actually open up the blood-brain barrier. So you open up the blood-brain barrier, and let's say you go eat glyphosate afterwards. No good. It's going straight through. Your blood-brain barrier, you're around high Wi-Fi, you go in and get vaccinated. Mercury goes straight in there. So I feel this is what's happening. I recently just bought an old RV, and I want to get out of San Diego on the weekends because I through this last 4 or 5 years since I left West Virginia, where there's hardly anyone out there, this Wi-Fi has been affecting my brain. I'm having to speak properly. I can't remember people's names. Billy D and Mary Jane, I know them very well. I was talking to them, and my kids came up. I was going to introduce to Mary Jane. I couldn't remember her name. And I feel embarrassed because I know her very well, but my brain, my synapses weren't connected. It's all to do with excessive amounts of Wi-Fi. So now we use candles at night. Come home to our place, it's dark. We use red lights, LED lights, really, really bad, fluorescent light, emit mercury. So we just renovated our office and we switched our office over to, I was going everywhere. I don't know if you know, LEDs have a really high flicker. So anytime it flickers, a couple of things happening. Anytime you have an electricity that's doing this kind of thing instead of continuous, the body has to try to catch it, right? Try to figure it out. So it's stressing you. So the flicker in the fluorescent light is really bad. And the LEDs, if you don't have the proper wiring, it's going to flicker. So you put your phone on slow-mo, take a picture of any LED lights, and when you slow mode it, after with a second or two, you would start to see, and it's flickering like this, so your brain is having to pick that up. So recently, we renovated our office, and I went to every light store, and finally I said, all right, I'm going to buy lights from like China. I don't care. I'm going to order from across the world. You can't get incandescent bulbs anymore. And then I read in 2012, a lot of the large world governments got together because they wanted to save the planet, and they rolled out incandescent bulbs. So since then, worldwide, you can't buy incandescent bulbs. You can get them sparingly, and you can find them in different decorative places, but they're not. And even the new light sockets are turning into LEDs. So I was a little concerned. I'm like, well, what is this about? So the bulbs that we're using now are reptile bulbs. We have them in our house. We have them in our office. They're bulbs that you would use if you had a lizard in your cage. If you pull out that little paper that comes in there, it says these bulbs are good because if you don't have a proper amount of UVB, it's going to affect breathing, psychological issues, and skin issues on your lizard. And you're like, what about me? Yeah. So that's my latest. That's a really, really, really long discussion, and I'm still learning. And this is what I think is going on in chiropractic. When we started in '91, 80% of the people that came in our office and got adjusted were ear holes. You name it. I mean, the ear infections for 5 years, one adjustment, two adjustments, gone. Somebody had, couldn't have this issue, couldn't go to the bath, whatever. It didn't even matter. Like boom, boom, boom. Now, I would say we get about 20% ear holes, and 80% people go. I'm glad I get adjusted. But what's the difference? The difference is that we didn't have Wi-Fi in the early 90s. It wasn't until the late 90s that it started coming about.
That's quite fascinating. I think most people don't realize how much the light cycle controls us. And so many people don't realize how the cell phone light immediately in the morning has a direct impact on how we transition through the day. And there's so many times that we get these different awakenings in us when we're not supposed to have them. And I had an interview with Mary Lucas Flannery. She's out at Life West, and we were talking about how do we get into the millennials, and what she made me wise of is that the next group of people, do you know what they're called, Kim? They're called Wi-Fi generation. So we've transitioned from the millennial to the Wi-Fi generation. And if you're telling me that these electrical frequencies are having a direct impact on our physiology, and that the light sources that we're getting are having a direct impact on our physiology and our mental state and our health state, the hypothalamus deal, the adrenal glands probably too, and then having an impact on our thyroid. I mean, all these little parts of our bodies that no one's really interested in, they sure are when they start going wrong.
Well, it affects the microbiome, and one of the things that it does, it actually dehydrates the cell. So excessive blue light will cause dehydration of the cell, and so that's why we're eating so much fat. So it dehydrates the cell of DHA. So that's why seafood, all these healthy fats, and that's the difference. I mean, I think that you're old enough, if you remember 20, 30 years ago, I mean, I can eat a pound of bacon. I don't feel fat, don't get any weight, not a big deal. 20, 30 years ago, if I would have ate a pound of bacon, I would have a gallbladder attack. My body would not, I mean, people were having gallbladders, they were eating too much fat. Now, I mean, I did keto. I'm like, I was eating fat, and I felt better, and I was able to think. So what it does is it dehydrates the cell, pulls out the DHA, so you have to replace that. Because I was a raw foodist, vegan, you name it, do all that kind of stuff. I loved it. And it wasn't until we switched and we moved. Now I realized we moved to a house that had a power line right out front. So I was sleeping about probably 8 feet away from a major power line and a transformer, because I just went back and videotaped our old house. And I have tri-field meters. I have body voltage meters. Like right now, I'm barefoot. I have 1 foot on the ground because it grounds the body to allow release electrons. And the thing is, I feel all this. It's it's not a science experiment because I think it's kind of cool. It's like I want my brain back. I want my chi back. I mean, I'm an East Coaster, born in Connecticut, Northeast, high energy, bring it on kind of thing. And I came out to California and I just basically rolled over like this and, did a lot of yoga and it was great and meditated. But, I want to be able to do yoga and meditate and still have the chi, like have that deep, strong energy. And I think that's what the millennials are lacking from the excessive amount of blue light. It causes testosterone problems. They can't get pregnant. If a woman or a man does not have testosterone, you just push them over. And I'm just saying physically, but just emotionally. That's that. That craziness in us, which is good and bad. Some people are fearful of that, but that when the energy is directed in the proper way, you get things done. So there's
I honestly think that we've become a little soft as a culture, and I don't know why. I've always kind of like wondered why, we have this entitlement culture and we have like these, this more, I guess we're easier to push around, like you said, with our attitudes and with, people are easy to roll over for whatever reason it might be. But it sounds like a lot of these things are happening because of our environment that we actually step by step walk into and want it. And then we demand it. And if they turn it off, we want it back. And I think that that's something that what you're saying is very real right now. And, I think that at this juncture, would you say that it's okay for chiropractors to have interests outside of chiropractic? Because it sounds like that's where your career has led.
Yeah. But when I say outside of chiropractic, to me, it's all chiropractic. Above, down, inside out, the philosophy. So chiropractic, you mean the physical adjustment, but us staying home and having home births and unschooling and the way we raise our children, the freedom of expression, that's what I call chiropractic. If you want to say only this is chiropractic, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of energy type different, whether it be, NET or network or, different torque release, we're working with the spirit and the energy of the body. This doesn't have to be a physical thing. And so, my thing is, what happened was I get these babies. And so for years, because we used to have our first practice, we had 60% children. So you get these home birth babies and, you feel them and they're just like this, and you adjust them. And then around 2012, I started noticing like their spine is like this. And I was like, that's really weird. How could that happen? Because this doesn't make sense, but I wasn't putting it together. And then I started noticing almost all the babies at 3 months old were standing up, they're standing up. And I'm like, they never stood up until 7 or 8 months. And then what I'm realizing is through I think it's the EMF toxicity, it's causing the spine to be more rigid. And then I find the people who work in front of computers who are in high Wi-Fi areas, their spines are like that. So, when I'm outside of chiropractic, it's still, I'm always looking, I also researched 1879 was when Edison developed a light bulb, first electricity light bulb. Prior to that, not one picture that I see when I Googled and kept Googling, did I ever see a kyphosis in someone's spine prior to that time. And then if you look at the people who went through the Great Depression, which was the first generation to have light, so the body had to adapt. They were kyphotic as, yeah, right? And then our grandparents, my grandparents would always say, stand up straight, stand up straight. And, now we don't really say that to the kids anymore because now generations pass, but prior, because their parents probably told them that. And before that, everyone stood up straight. Now, if we're living our life through innate intelligence, standing up straight and sitting up straight should not be a conscious effort. It should be something natural. And even a CBP practitioner like myself, I put people in traction, pulling them. My philosophy now is like, no, you can force the body to do something and hopefully we follow, the spirit follows. But now I'm like more of, why not find out why the spirit or the physical body is not having that posture? And I know I go to bed 7, 8 o'clock at night now. 9 o'clock's a late night. Last night was 10:30 because we had our board meeting, but no light. and I will sleep from 10 to 5 a.m. And when I wake up, my skull is different. I can feel like I can feel it. My head is less, what would you say? My brain is not as swollen. I feel my spine is mobile, like my posture is better. And this is all without thought. And so when you go, is that chiropractic? I think it's chiropractic. But, I know that I may be a mixer and somebody else is,
And that's just it. Is I think that the chiropractic profession has given a very rigid definition of who is what and what is who. And I think that when we realize that chiropractically speaking, that a chiropractor comes out as a doctor, and as long as, in my opinion, and you can tell me otherwise, as long as they aren't introducing drugs and surgery into the sacred trust of chiropractic, they can get their patients better through natural means. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing is chiropractors have their own philosophy. They have their own tenets of culture. And one of those tenets of their culture is being very rigid towards what the word means and how they look at each other. And, going back to ancient times is don't judge others until you judge yourself. And I think that that's a huge lesson for the chiropractor out there is not to judge each other and to know that if somebody gets through 7 years of schooling, gets a business running and wants to take care of people, as long as you're taking care of the person with the 4 principles of the eat, think, move, and get adjusted, all else follows. And I think that that's something that we can definitely hang our hat on. You being a chiropractor, you can hang your hat on is that when people come into your office, you are in the best interest of getting that person to a better quality of life. And all that is the chiropractic lifestyle. So I think we almost need to rebrand the profession a little bit from just being the word chiropractic to chiropractic lifestyle, to where people start realizing that it's a life choice to be healthy and that you have to make a choice on a day-to-day basis if you want actual health. And it's not some word that you learn in a health class. Like when I went through middle school, we had to go through like health class. It's not a word. It is something that is a transfer of life. And that if we want to have that big word health or that big word chiropractic or a positive lifestyle, then we have to look to the source. And you said it a few times, it's ADIO, above, down, inside out. And if we think about life and life force as ADIO, and we think about health as ADIO, and we think about our mindsets of ADIO, then we take this whole profession and then we give it a more of a holistic understanding of what chiropractic is and who chiropractors are. And, even you, a very strong woman, you say people might think I'm a mixer. Well, I think honestly, Kim, we're having new conversations and the new conversations are going to transcend the old. And eventually we're going to take the power of chiropractic back for the chiropractic principle. And eventually we're going to move away from this mechanistic idea. And we're going to go where most chiropractors that I talk to, the real tours, they want to see chiropractic become more vitalistic. Well, vitalism is all about quality of life. And if we all realize that we are all beings of light, that we're all light molecules, that we have to live on the vibration of planet Earth, that if we're living on that vibration of Earth and we have a clear nervous system, then we have a higher quality of chiropractic lifestyle. So that's
a great way. Great in this whole thing.
That's just me and honestly, I think we need to go over the old saying, as Reggie would call people lay people. He would do the lay lecture. And I think that we need to come out of that darkness a little bit too and have a new title for the non-chiro as, an educated advocate. And I think we need to have more educated advocates than consider people that aren't doctors, lay people, because I think that there's a huge group of people out there that are educated advocates for chiropractic that need to be represented to a higher degree as well. And advocacy is the first step to making change. And the chiropractic has been their own advocate forever. So at this point, Kim, is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk to our audience about? Awesome. Well, I'm going to recognize our sponsor, Chiro Spark. They are our social media company. If you guys want to put a spark into your social media presence online, reach out to Blake Kalkstein. He's going to be there for you. And I just want to say I love and appreciate all of you, especially today. I'm heart-centered on Valentine's Day, and I want to just give gratitude to all of you for being on our live stream today. And Dr. Kim, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our audience today. It was an honor to get to know you, and I look forward to the next time we can connect. Awesome. Well, have a blessed rest of your day, and have some fun with your husband tonight on Valentine's Day.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.